Alright, let's dive into something that'll completely change how you watch movies. Ever noticed how some scenes look so simple, like ridiculously simple, but somehow feel perfect? Well, here's the kicker. Those effortless moments are often the hardest to film. And I'm not just talking about stunts or CGI. I'm talking about stuff like walking through a door, catching a set of keys, or having a quiet conversation. Sounds easy, right? Wrong. Let me break it down for you. First up, let's talk about Tom Cruise walking through a door in Eyes Wide Shut. Sounds mundane, but Stanley Kubrick made him do it 95 times. 95. Personally, I think this is where Kubrick's genius, and maybe his obsession, really shines. What makes this interesting isn't just the repetition, it's what it says about filmmaking. A scene that lasts 3 seconds could take hours, even days, to perfect. And that's the magic, or the madness, of cinema. What many people don't realize is that these tiny moments often carry the weight of the entire film. If you take a step back and think about it, it's kind of wild how much effort goes into something so seemingly insignificant. Now, let's jump to Psycho. The shower scene. Iconic, right? But here's the thing. Alfred Hitchcock didn't just film a murder, he choreographed a masterpiece. What this really suggests is that simplicity in cinema is often an illusion. The scene looks brutal and raw, but it's actually the result of meticulous planning. Hitchcock had to ensure nothing explicit was shown, which meant precise camera angles, timing, and editing. In my opinion, this is where the genius of filmmaking lies, in making the impossible look effortless. It's like watching a magician and having no clue how the trick was done. Here's another one that blew my mind. The apartment argument in Marriage Story. That 11-page fight between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson? It looks like one raw, unbroken take. But nope. They filmed it over 2 days, with dozens of rehearsals and takes. One thing that immediately stands out is how emotionally draining it must have been for the actors. Driver even called it one of the hardest things he's ever done. What this really highlights is the invisible labor behind performances. We see the final product and think, wow, that was intense. But we don't see the hours of prep and the emotional toll it takes. Let's shift gears to The Empire Strikes Back. Mark Hamill freezing in the snow. Sounds like a typical Star Wars challenge, right? But what people miss is the physical toll. Hamill wasn't just acting groggy, he was actually freezing. The crew packed real snow on his face between takes. From my perspective, this is where the line between acting and endurance blurs. It's not just about delivering lines, it's about living the scene, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. This raises a deeper question. How far should actors go to sell a moment? Personally, I think Hamill's commitment is what makes that scene unforgettable. Now, let's talk about Iron Man. You'd think the hardest part would be the explosions or fight scenes, right? Nope. It was Tony Stark building a gadget in a cave. What makes this really interesting is the level of detail required. The prop master had to make it look like Robert Downey Jr. was actually engineering something. A detail I find fascinating is how often these simple scenes demand the most technical precision. It's not about flashy visuals. It's about making the audience believe in the moment. If you think about it, that's the real magic of cinema, convincing us that what we're seeing is real. Here's a fun one. Brie Larson in Captain Marvel. Her biggest challenge? A cat. Not a villain, not a stunt, a cat. What many people don't realize is that Larson has severe cat allergies. So, every scene with Goose wasn't just acting, it was a battle against her own body. The crew used a stuffed double whenever possible, but some shots still needed a real cat. This raises a deeper question. How much should actors sacrifice for their roles? In my opinion, Larson's dedication is what makes her performance so compelling. It's not just about the character. It's about the actor's commitment. Lastly, let's talk about The Lord of the Rings. That quiet conversation between Frodo and Gandalf? It required an entirely new camera rig and forced perspective sets. What this really suggests is that even the most basic scenes can be technical marvels. Peter Jackson didn't just film a conversation. He created an entire world where a hobbit and a wizard could coexist believably. One thing that immediately stands out is the level of innovation required. It's not just about filming. It's about inventing new ways to tell a story. So, the next time you watch a movie and think, oh, that scene looks easy, remember this. There's a good chance someone lost their mind making it perfect. And that's what makes cinema so fascinating. It's the invisible effort, the behind-the-scenes chaos, that gives us those effortless moments. What do you think? Are there any scenes you've seen that looked simple, but you now realize were probably a nightmare to film? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.